Hello and welcome to the secondary rules, the rules which we will be not using directly, but indirectly we should remember in order to check the validity of categorical syllogisms. Now we know the primary rules. These primary rules are also called as axioms, and we have already discussed that the first rule says that you have to avoid four terms, or the fallacy of paternio terminorum. We have already discussed. The second rule is the undistributed middle. We know the third rule is illicit processes. You know that there are two rules, illicit major and illicit minor in that. You also know exclusive premises fallacy. That means that no standard form valid categorical syllogism can have two negative premises. You also know that the fallacy of drawing an affirmative conclusion from a negative premise. That means if one of the premises is negative, then the conclusion has to be negative. And the last rule, that is the existential fallacy, which says that no particular conclusion follows from two universal premises. So we know these rules, and now today we will be taking four more rules which are instrumental for us to understand that how to test the validity of syllogisms. Now those rules cannot be used directly, but we can use these rules, or we can remember these rules in our mind, or at the back of the mind we can always understand that how these rules will also play a very strong role and a very important role in testing the validity of categorical syllogism. So that is the idea. So we will be taking four more rules, right? I have discussed already a couple of rules in the class, and the rest two rules we will be discussing today. So we will be having a set of four rules. Now you know that these are basically the rules which you can directly use and which you will be using in order to prove the other rules as well. Now the four theorems or axioms or corollaries, in whichever way you will like to say it, are basically the rules which follow from these six rules, right? So the first one, which we have already discussed in the class, and I will just in some speed I will follow, or I will give you a brief understanding of that, is basically that no conclusion follows from two particular premises. So if we have two particular premises, then no conclusion follows. Now this is the first rule, or this is the, in fact, if you call it in that sense, so this will be the seventh rule, right? But since these are primary by nature and these are something which you can directly use, so we will restrict the number to 6, and this will be the corollary of the rules first to 6. Now what does it say? It says that if you have two particular premises, then no conclusion follows out of it. Now if you see what are two particular premises, if you understand, two particular premises can be either I, so this is one combination or one permutation. The other one can be I-O. The third one will be O-I, and the fourth one will be O-O, right? So these are four possible ways in which particular premises can be the major and the minor premise, right? So if we have these, how we will see that whether we can come out with a conclusion or we will see that we cannot come out with a conclusion. That is the idea. Now if you see O and O, both are negative premises. Now if you take O and O as premise, it will directly violate the exclusive premises rule. That means a categorical syllogism cannot have two negative premises, but here there are two negative premises. So no conclusion will follow out of it. So we will remove this, because here you will not find any conclusion. In case of I and I, right? If you take I and I as the major premise and the minor premise respectively, so irrespective of the fact that I will be the major premise and the minor premise, all the terms here will be undistributed, right? They will not be distributed. So the middle term will occur here, 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 wherever, in first figure, second figure, third figure, fourth figure, depending upon the structure. It will always remain undistributed. So you will see that rule 2 will be broken, right? Or it will be violated, that the middle term must be distributed at least once in the premise, but here you will not find the middle term to be distributed. So from I also no conclusion will follow. So I will remove this as well. Now let us take the, or I will remove this. Okay, so we cannot have I as well as OO as the premises. Now let us take IO. What will be happening if we have I and O as premise? So since one of the premise is negative, then the conclusion has to be negative. I am taking both E and O. However, you will come to know that E cannot be the conclusion, but in a later way. But right now, let me take that E and O, either one of them can be the conclusion. So if we have S and P as the subject and the predicate term of the conclusion, which in a standard form categorical syllogism will be, so you will find that both E and O will at least distribute the predicate term. That means the major term. Now the major term will be here, right? And both of the terms will be undistributed. So if here is the middle term and here is the major term, or here is the major term and here is the middle term, does not matter what, you will find that there will be illicit major. So this syllogism will also not come out to be a valid syllogism. So IO will also not be there. Now let us take the case of O and I. If we take O and I, again we know that the conclusion will be a negative proposition. So again we will have S and P over here, and at least this term will be distributed. But now we can always say that okay, here there are two terms and here also there are two terms, and this P will be here or here. If it is here, fine, so this will be distributed. So we will not have the problem of illicit major, fine. Okay, but then we will have the middle term over here and this will be undistributed, and here both the terms will be undistributed. So you will see that irrespective of the fact that the middle term is here or here, the middle term will remain undistributed. So this will create a problem. Okay, now suppose if the case is in other way, that means if we have these two terms here and P is here and M is here, so M is distributed, but then P is not distributed, so it will have illicit major. So does not matter what, you will not find a conclusion possible with the help of two particular premises, because either it will have exclusive premises, or it will have illicit major, or it will have undistributed middle. So any of these three rules will break, and if even one rule break, the syllogism will be an invalid syllogism. So this is something which we have discussed in the class, and therefore I am not taking much of time over here. Okay. You can also understand it with the help of a Venn diagram. Suppose if we draw a Venn diagram, I'm just giving you an idea. Suppose we draw Venn diagrams here and we name it as P and M. So does not matter if both the terms are particular. So all the cross marks or X marks, like suppose if I take an example, like suppose if I take an example of I-O proposition, right? And if I take IO in the first figure, so it will be like this, right? So we will have like this kind of arrangement in the premises, right? So you know that here MP is this is MP not equal to 0, and this is SM bar not equal to 0. Now MP not equal to 0 means the common part of M and P here or here, there will be a cross mark, but we will be forced to draw the cross mark on the border. Similarly, SM bar is not equal to 0. The part of S which is not there in M, that means this part will have a cross mark, but then it will be on this part, right? Because whenever you are not sure where the cross mark or the X mark will be, so you know that the cross or the X mark has to be placed on the border. And once you draw it on the border, irrespective of the fact that whether it is IO or II or OO, does not matter. Whenever you will take two particular propositions, you will find that the X marks will always be on the boundaries. And once they are on the boundaries, then no conclusion can come out, right? Because then we are not sure whether it is on this side or this side, whether it is on this side or this side, and therefore there is a validation quandary. So does not matter what, you will not be able to come out with a conclusion when there are two particular premises. That is the idea. Okay, so we have taken care of the first question. So we can add one more rule, and that will be that from, like suppose if we add the seventh rule as that no conclusion follows from two particular premises. So this is the seventh rule. Okay, so let us keep it over here and come to the next one. The next one says that if we have a particular major and a negative minor, no conclusion follows. Now, what is a particular major? The particular major can be I or O, right? And a negative minor will be E or O, right? So there will be again four combinations: I, O, or O, O, or O, E. So these are four combinations, right? So we are told that if we have a particular major, look, this is a particular proposition, this is also a particular proposition, or this is also a particular proposition, or a negative minor premise, that means E or O. So we have taken all the four possibilities, right? So whether the premises are IE, IO, OO and OE, no conclusion will follow. As you can see very clearly that if we have OO or OE, there will be problem of exclusive premises. So no conclusion will follow. So I will remove these two. Okay. Now we have two other things, IO and IE. We have already checked with IO in the last question that no conclusion follows from IO. Now the only thing which is left is IE. Now if I and E are the major and the minor premise respectively, so the conclusion has to be a negative proposition, because one is affirmed, one is negative. So the conclusion has to be negative. If the conclusion is negative, it will be either E or O. Here the subject and predicate term, that is the conclusion. Here the predicate term will be distributed. The predicate term is the major term. The major term will be either here or here, but you know that both the terms will be undistributed in case of an I proposition. So again, no conclusion follows out of it. So this is the second question which we have discussed. You can always draw Venn diagram and check. Again, you will find that there will be problems. You cannot come out with a conclusion. Either the X mark will be on the border or some place will be left to be shaded and you will not find the conclusion. So no conclusion follows from a particular major and a negative minor. So if we put the eighth rule is if we have an I or O as the major premise and E or O as the minor premise, then again no conclusion will follow. So this is the seventh rule, this is the eighth rule. Now let us talk about the next rule. The next rule says that if you have a universal premise and a particular premise as the major and the minor premise, irrespective of the fact that the universal premise is the major premise or the minor premise, or the particular is the major premise or the minor premise. So the combination can be either you can have U, P, or you can have P, U. Fine. The conclusion will always be particular. It can never be universal. That is the idea. Now, how to solve? Okay, let us try to solve it. Let us try to solve the first part. If you have a universal major premise and a particular minor premise, then the conclusion has to be particular. It cannot be universal. That is the idea, right? So what I will do is that I will go by the age-old method, right? Because the age-old method says, like, you remember when we were solving this in our school days, we used to solve like root 3 is not a rational number. Prove that root 3 or root 2 is not a rational number. So what we will say, that let root 3 be a rational number. That means that it should be represented in terms of a upon b, where b is not equal to 0. And then we go on to solve this. And when we solve and we find that no, our initial assumption was wrong. So the root 3 is actually is not a rational number, right? So these kind of things we have done, right? So similarly, since we do not have anything, so maybe we can try with this understanding. So let me take a universal major and a particular minor as the premises, and see whether the conclusion can be universal. If the conclusion cannot be universal, then we will say that the conclusion then only can be particular. In fact, a particular conclusion follows. This is something which you can also check. But a universal does not follow is something which we will be proving. So it will always say that then the particular will follow. Right? So we have universal and we have particular. So again, there can be two combinations. One here, it will be A or E, and here it can be I or O, right? So the conclusion can be A or E. This is the understanding which we are trying to develop. So I will remove this part so that we do not have any confusion with UP and all these things, and rather we will keep it like this, that we have these two as premises and whether we can have an A or E as a conclusion. Now if you see, let us try to first see if we have A as a conclusion, right? So in order to have A as a conclusion, we need to have both the premises as affirmative, right? Because if one of the premises is negative, then the conclusion has to be negative. Okay, we will solve it in the next question, that if both the premises are affirmative, then the conclusion also has to be affirmative. Though you can understand it with the help of rule number 4 and rule number 5, but I will ask you to solve it for yourself as well, or we will try to solve it in the next part of this lecture. But right now, let us try to understand that if one is affirmative and one is negative, then the conclusion cannot be negative, right? So what we need to do is that we need to take this, we can keep, in fact, we have to take both the negatives from here, right? Okay. Now, what will be the common thing? The thing is that here the S term will be distributed and the P term will not be distributed, right? So this is something which we know. Okay. Now we know that this term is distributed and this S is the minor term. The minor term will be either here or here, and in both cases it will not be distributed. So you will find the problem of illicit major, illicit minor, I'm sorry. Right? Now suppose if the conclusion is E, fine, then we have this term distributed as well as this term distributed, right? Now you have to keep one affirmative and one negative. So if I keep A as affirmative and here I can put an O proposition like this, so I will have this term distributed. Now if this term is distributed and here is say the S term, so I have taken care of this, fine, okay. So this has been taken care of, this term is distributed, this is undistributed, and this is middle term. So I am putting a cross over here. Okay, now can you see this term is also distributed. So here the S term should be there because then it will be distributed, but then here it will be M and this will be undistributed. So you will find that there will be problem of illicit, there will be problem of undistributed middle. So irrespective of the fact, in whichever combination or whichever permutation you will take, you will find that no conclusion will follow from a universal from a universal and a particular in if you try to derive a universal conclusion. So from a universal and a particular, you will find that the only conclusion which is following, or the only conclusion which can follow, is a particular premise, or it's a particular proposition. It will be a particular conclusion. You can check it for yourself. You can check the other part. You can put here a particular premise and here a universal premise and try to see whether there will be a universal conclusion. You will find that no conclusion follows. However, there can be a conclusion from universal and particular to particular. Like suppose if I take universal, now I will take the other part, okay, so that we do justice to both the ways. So I take a particular premise here and a universal premise here, and I say that there can be a particular conclusion which will follow. So can we have a particular conclusion? Like suppose if I have a particular conclusion and I take whatever, like suppose I can give you an example, like if I have say S and P, so what is common between this is that S will not be distributed. Okay, fine. I can give you a direct example for that matter. Okay, you can take a direct example, like if I have an I here and an E here. Okay, so whether we can have a conclusion, right? So this is the idea. Now suppose if I have the first figure over here and here we have this, okay, and here this. So if you see the distribution, here this term will be distributed, this term will be distributed, here nothing will be distributed, right? So you have I and E, so no conclusion will follow. No conclusion will follow in this case, right? Because if you have I over here and E over here, so you will see that the conclusion has to be a negative proposition. Now, if you put an E proposition, then nothing will come. If you put an O proposition, then this term will be distributed, which will not be distributed over here. So, nothing will follow. But then, you will find a conclusion in case of, if you put an E proposition here and I proposition here, you will find a conclusion to be O. You take first figure M, S, P, S, P. Here this term is distributed, here both the terms are distributed, here both the terms are distributed, and you see it is not breaking any of the rules. And it shows that from a universal and a particular conclusion follows only. In fact, to tell you the truth, E, I, O, whether it is first figure, second figure, third figure, or the fourth figure, all of them are valid. And this is the only mood which is valid in all the four figures, right? So this is something also which you should remember, which you should understand, right? You can check it with the help of 6 rules, you can check it with the help of Venn diagrams, no problem, right? So I have given you an example as well. Okay, now let us, or maybe I will write it over here, that if you have, let us put the 9th rule as well. What is the 9th rule? If you have a universal and a particular, the conclusion will always be a particular proposition. So I will write it P here, and if you have P and U, so you will have P over here, right? So you can check it with the help of IAI, right? So if you take IAI in some figure, I will not give you the figure, but you can check it for yourself, then you will find that one of them will be at least valid, right? So IAI will follow in case of, I will say, in case of this example, and for this example, you can take the example of EIO. So that will also follow. So you will have quite good questions, and you will check it for yourself. So the bottom line is that from a universal and a particular conclusion follows only. No universal conclusion will follow, whether you take the universal or the particular as the major premise or the minor premise. So if you keep it here like this, still the conclusion will always be particular. Universal cannot follow. In these two cases, no conclusion follows. Now let us take the 10th rule. The 10th rule says, if both the premises are affirmative, right? I am writing AFF for this. Then the conclusion also has to be affirmative. It cannot be negative. Now suppose if we take both the premises as affirmative. So what can be the combinations? AA, AI, IA, and II. Okay. So these are the 4 possible ways in which both the premises can be affirmative. If both the premises are affirmative, the conclusion cannot be negative. Now first thing first, from II nothing will follow. We know it, right? So we will remove this. Okay. Now let us take the case of AA. If we have A and A as premise, okay. So if you take the conclusion as E, because you know if both the premises are universal, the conclusion must be universal as well. And if you take an E proposition, right? So here both the terms will be distributed. Okay. Now if you have to distribute both the terms, so you have to put P here and S here. So these 2 terms will be distributed. Then here the middle term will not be distributed, right? So you will see that from AA only A can follow, I cannot follow. E cannot follow. So you will find that no negative conclusion follows from 2 affirmative premises. So this is one of the examples. The other, from here nothing follows. That is the case. Nothing will follow. But if it will follow only an affirmative proposition. Now let us take the case of A and I. Now suppose if I take A and I. Okay. Again, if I take a negative conclusion, so the negative conclusion can be only I. It cannot be, okay, we have to take a negative conclusion. So the negative conclusion can be only O, not I. Okay. So E also cannot be the case, because one is affirmative, one is universal and one is particular. So we already know that if one is universal and one is particular, the conclusion has to be particular. So we have taken a particular conclusion. Now one is A, one is I, and I'm saying that can a negative conclusion follows. So the negative conclusion has to be O. Now if the negative conclusion is O, you know that the P term will be distributed. Now P term has to be distributed here. So the P term can be here only, it will be distributed. Here it will not be distributed, that will be the middle term. Here does not matter, wherever you keep whichever term, they will not be distributed. So again there will be problem of undistributed middle. So this can also not be the case. So I know that from A and I also nothing will follow. So, or no negative conclusion follows. Now I take I and A. Okay. So in case of I and A, again, if you see, I take a negative conclusion, and if I take a negative conclusion, what can be the case? It can also be only O, because in the last case also we have seen. So here S will be there, here P will be there, and we know this will be distributed, this will be undistributed. So this term has to be distributed either here or here, but again you will see that it will not be following, and there will be the problem of illicit major. So does not matter what, you need to understand that in whichever way you will like to solve it, you will always find problems with these cases. So the bottom line says, and you can also draw the Venn diagrams for this and check, because I have drawn a Venn diagram for you in the first case, and you have seen that it can be very easily seen that the X marks are always, or the cross marks are always on the border, so nothing is going to come out from it. So you can check it for this, you can check it for this, you can also check it for this, and you will see that the negative conclusions, here the negative conclusion will not follow, here affirmative conclusion will not follow, here no conclusion will follow. So this is something which I want to bring to your attention. So you have the first 6 rules, these are primary rules, these are axioms. Okay, you can directly use them, and these you can keep in your mind whenever you are solving questions. So you can use smaller tricks or certain rules from here, and you can use them and solve the questions in a better way. The whole idea of taking these parts is basically to make you more aware of categorical propositions and categorical syllogisms and how they behave, right? So as I told you that this existential fallacy, this says that no particular conclusion follows from 2 universal premises, which very directly challenges the notion of a very age-old understanding of deductive logic, that when we move from universal to particular, then it is deductive logic, right? But you can see that if we have 2 universal premises, then a particular conclusion is not following, right? So it challenges the age-old understanding, and therefore I told you that the best way to understand deductive logic is that if the premises are true, the conclusion cannot be false, or there is no substitution instance which can make the premises true and the conclusion false. So that is the understanding which you need to harbor, which you need to naturalize, and that understanding has to be very clearly in your mind, right? So these are certain things which you should remember, which you should understand, so that you can solve the questions better. And these are certain things which can be used for GREs, for GMATs, for CAT, MAT, GATE, and so many other things where people ask reasoning, and they are based on more or less categorical syllogisms and categorical propositions. So if you have mastered these things, you will be finding it, or you will be at ease solving those questions. So if you have any doubts, you can put it on the comment section. You can always directly ask in the class, or you can always convene a class as well, as I told you, right? So thank you very much for your attention, and please keep solving a lot of questions.